Hello there everybody, and welcome to the entertainment headquarters, but mostly importantly, happy Christmas. This is being recorded on the 23rd of December, and it's either going to get up on the channel right in time before Christmas or sometime after Christmas. Either way, I hope you have or have had an amazing Christmas spent with all your family or loved ones. You have had amazing food, drank as much mulled wine as possible if you're into mulled wine, and Santa has given you everything you've asked for. And also, I hope you've watched a lot of great entertainment over the festive season. So that's a Merry Christmas from me to you. And I'm recording this on the 23rd of December because it was the launch of the new Zack Snyder film, Rebel Moon. Now, Zack Snyder and Rebel Moon, as we know, it's been coming for quite some time now on Netflix. It's been hyped to be potentially the new Star Wars. Part of me, in my mind, was thinking, well, there's never going to be another Star Wars, but hopefully it's just as entertaining and it's just as fun. And for me, it's been a mixed bag. There's positives and there's negatives, but there's always, I believe, positives and negatives when it comes to Zack Snyder and his work. My favourite Zack Snyder film to this day is still Watchmen. I absolutely love that film. 300, he did a decent job on that. And of course, since those two particular films, he did, prior to them two, I'm not sure what was, Day of the Dead or Dawn of the Dead, the remake, but he did one of those which was thoroughly entertaining. And then of course he did, I think it was Sucker Punch in between. And since then he's been known simply for the Zack Snyder Snyderverse, aka the DC Extended Universe, which, like the majority of his work, either like it or you hate it. It's a mixture of positives and negatives, and he has his die-hard fans that will go to the end of the world for him. They've been campaigning since Justice League, his version, the Snyder cut of Justice League, came out. They've been campaigning like crazy for the continuation of the Zack Snyder Snyderverse. And I think after what I'm hearing with Aquaman 2, the final nail has definitely been put in the coffin for that one. But it's time to move on because Zack Snyder has moved on with Rebel Moon. So let's get into it. So, the plot synopsis for Rebel Moon Part 1, by the way, Part 1, A Child of Fire, because this is a two-parter. There's Part 2 coming, I believe, in April. So the first one, Rebel Moon Part 1, A Child of Fire, the plot synthesis is, or synopsis, however you like to see it. When a peaceful settlement on the edge of a distant moon finds itself threatened by the armies of a tyrannical ruling force, Cora, a mysterious stranger living among the villagers, becomes their best hope for survival. Tasked with finding trained fighters who will unite with her in making an impossible stand against the Mother World, Cora assembles a small band of warriors, outsiders, insurgents, peasants and orphans of war from different worlds who share a common need of redemption and revenge. As the shadow of an entire realm bears down on the unlikeliest of moons, a battle over the fate of a galaxy is waged, and in the process, a new army of heroes is formed. So there you go. That is your plot. It's basically Star Wars meets the Guardians of the Galaxy put together and jumbled around to create this new world. And the cast in this are outstanding. This has a fantastic cast. You have Sofia Boutella as Cora, the leading lady. You have, and this is the name I always cannot pronounce, Digmund Huso as Titus. Then you have Ed Skirkin as Atticus Noble, who is one of the villains. Then you have Michael Huisman as Gunnar, who's like the farmer. You have Bae Doona as Nemesis, which is my favourite character, is this badass ninja lady. You have Ray Fisher as Bloodaxe, cool name. Then you have Charlie Hunnam as Kai, Anthony Hopkins voicing Jimmy the robot, Stas Nair as Tarek. Then you have Fra Frey as Balasaurus, or Balasarius, however you like to pronounce it. He's basically the Emperor Palpatine of this whole situation. And there's positives and there's negatives to Rebel Moon, just like all of the Zack Snyder stuff. So I'm going to talk about the positives first. The positives is I will give Zack Snyder the credit where credit is due. You know, this started out as a script and a story for a brand new Star Wars movie. He went to Disney, you know, he tried and tried. He then converted it and he built a brand new story, a brand new world, and you have to give him credit where credit is due, because it's not easy developing something that you're hoping is going to be new and fresh, especially when there's so much content out there within the world of space, sci-fi, drama. It's hard, so I'll give him credit where credit is due. He's built a really complex world. It's quite dark though. The settings are dark, the lighting can be dark, but the world might feel similar to things we've seen in Star Wars. The creature designs are quite inventive, especially the spider lady alien that Bae Doona character Nemesis fights. So the visuals are beautiful. They are dark at times, but they're still quite eye-catching. The costuming in this is outstanding. You see a mixture of Star Wars, meets Guardians of the Galaxy, meets Warhammer, even Warcraft. There's elements of it all put together, moulded together, all these influences, and he's made this world. And it's visually stunning, dark like I see at times, and the creatures are beautiful, the costumes are beautiful. As for the story is very much a simple plot that not much really happens. It's more about getting these characters together and finding these characters that are going to join together to basically become the rebellion against the mother world, which is the galactic empire of this universe that Zack Snyder's forming. Apart from that, there's not much more to the plot. Each character that gets introduced, you don't really get to know much of the backstory, but each character is performed by amazing actors. I've heard lots of people say that acting in this is not up to par, but I personally think, you know, it's a space drama, it's a space soap opera. I give it due to where, you know, you get what you're given. They are following the script and they are performing as they are asked to do. And for the most part, this is what I will say. Sofia Boutella is a fantastic actress. She's a fantastic action star. But I struggled in believing that she was a leading lady in this. I don't know if she can lead a film. I'm used to seeing her in ensemble cast as like one of the side characters. You know, she was in Kingsman, she was in The Mummy, which I did not like. She was in Ant-Man 2 as the character Ghost. So we know she can act, we know she can put on amazing performances, but I just struggled to believe in her as a leading lady in this. And her backstory, with her being the lead, being this child that basically, it's very similar, her story and her backstory, to that of Gamora and Thanos in the Guardians of the Galaxy, or, you know, the Avengers films. As you know, she was this young woman who loses her parents. The Emperor, the leader, this Balasaurus, basically takes her in and grooms her to be one of his lieutenant soldiers, and she falls in love, things go down, she ends up deserting, finds this peaceful moon, becomes a farmer, and is living a peaceful life until the mother world tracks down this world, decides to try and steal all its resources for their army and their people. And that's when she realises she needs to go up against them and band together with these different bunch of characters played by all the other actors that's been mentioned. But it's a simple plot, it works, but with the characters, unlike with the Guardians of the Galaxy, unlike with the Avengers or characters within the world of Star Wars, I didn't gel with them and I didn't bond with them the way I did with the other characters from other franchises. I think that's one thing Zack Snyder, I think, struggles to do when he creates something on his own, is to create characters that you gel and have, an emotional attachment to. The other characters and their backstories, there isn't really much of a build-up or plot, development. They're basically discovered one by one and they all get together for their own reasons. And there's no real bond between them. And there's no bond between, I believe, the audience and the characters. And I don't know why that is. With Zack Snyder, like I say, prior to this, anything he's worked on, especially the Snyderverse, the DC Extended Universe, he's got so much material that other writers have written. He's got all the comic books, all the previous movies, he's got all of the animated movies, he's got a whole library to go through of characters that's already been pre-written, where you can take elements and plot points and knows the characters, he can put them together and then build a story around what's already out there. With these characters, he's taken elements from Star Wars, Guardians, and he's tried to do this on his own, but he's missing the emotional attachment. That's what I think of the characters. And the plot, like I say, is a simple plot. The film itself, I think there's a lot he could have done different. Like I said, the positives of the world, the creatures, the whole world building is fantastic. The characters are simple characters that we've seen in previous things. But for me, where he loses it, and this is my biggest negative of this film, is there's a lot of dialogue and a lot of scenes that are overstretched that I think could have been simply cut, simply changed. There's a lot of monologue that is placed throughout this that I don't think was necessary or could have been shortened, because I do think it takes away from the film. I believe this would have worked better as a shorter movie with more, quick dialogue, just get you from A, B to C, where he's tried to overstretch it, because that's what Zack Snyder does. He's a very complex director who likes to have these long-winded segments in all his movies to explain the motivations between his characters, and sometimes I think it's too much. And apart from the basic plot, like I say, if this one character, the Sophie Botella character of Cora, deciding I need to defend our moons from the mother world, and I need to get some people together, form a rebellion and go against them. Outside of that, that's all you needed to know. They then could have focused on the relationships better with the characters. They could have developed the backstory better on some of the characters. But you had too much of these long monologue moments, especially with the character of Cora, and she's explaining her backstory and other elements that I thought was a bit unnecessary, and it dragged the movie along a bit too much. The music in this film is very good as well. I do like a lot of the score. I love the score of the Justice League, the Zack Snyder Snyder cut. But Zack Snyder, like I say, he is a director who people will either enjoy or they will not enjoy, and I've always found it 50-50 with his work. And I give him credit, like I said, where credit is due, because it is not easy to create a story and a world from scratch with your own imagination and trying to get it and build it together. I'm hoping, because this is part one, that this is just the build up, and that the second part is just going to be nothing but full-on action from start to finish. Because the action in this is another positive point. There is a lot of good action sequences, but some of the way it's filmed, some of the slow motion shots I found a bit off-putting. But for the most part, it was very enjoyable. This is an enjoyable movie because you just have to take it for what it is. You don't have to look too deep into it, because it's not too deep of a story. The only thing I'm saying is that the characters needed to be developed more. You need to, there's no emotional attachment to them, like I said before. You just accept them. And my favourite character is the character of Nemesis, who is this badass samurai chick played brilliantly by Bae Doona, who I've seen in a couple of amazing shows on Netflix. So her star is rising. And as for the rest of the cast, who are an amazing cast, I think they don't really get much else to do other than what you see on screen. The villains in this, there's so many memorable villains within the DCU, the MCU, Star Wars. I found the villains in this quite weak. I wasn't really, I basically didn't care either way if the villain survived or died. And I'm hoping that in part 2, that especially the Emperor type character, this Balasaurus, that he is given a much more meatier part, because he has a connection with Cora that needs to be explored. And I'm hoping that happens in part 2, and that part 2 goes balls to the wall in terms of action, in terms of at least developing the characters of the other characters outside of the character Cora much deeper. And Zack Snyder, like I say, you need to give him the props of trying his best to develop something. I do not believe this will be, as remembered or, as popular as Star Wars. I think this is going to be something that will be remembered but won't stand out, similar to that of The Creator that came out earlier this year, but I actually enjoyed The Creator a lot more. Even though it's very similar, it's got like a simplified plot. It had elements from Star Wars, Blade Runner, all of these other films, but it was the characters you cared for. It had sympathetic characters. It had characters you gelled with and you were rooting. Where I believe with Rebel Moon, outside of Korra and other characters, you don't really bond or gel or have any emotional attachment with them, which is a weak part of this story and this film. But the positives have standed out, for you. It's visually beautiful, dark at times, but still visually stunning. The influences of Star Wars, Blade Runner, Warhammer, even Warcraft are all in this. The MCU, the Guardians, it's all in there. You just have to look at it and find it for yourself. The costuming, absolutely stunning. The work that they've done, the visuals. It's just a shame that even though it's got a simplified plot, that the characters weren't fleshed out more. And you didn't care for them the way I was hoping you would. And the villains could have been made better. But this is part one. Rebel Moon, A Child on Fire. I believe the second one is called Rebel Moon, Scar Giver. And even the title alone, that sounds to me that we're going to get a lot more fighting, a lot more brutality. And if this was dark in terms of plot, the way Zack Snyder is, I could imagine the second one's going to be a lot darker, but I just hope it delivers more on the action and better character development. So my score for this, my rating for Rebel Moon Part 1, A Child on Fire, it's going to be 6 out of 10. I think that's a fair score. Like I say, he's a very capable director when it comes to the visuals and, stuff like that. But he really needs to flesh out his character, develop it more. And he really needs to focus on, simple plot, yes, but flesh out your characters more and you're onto a winner. But that's just my opinion. What is your opinion of Rebel Moon, A Child on Fire? Has it been the greatest action sci-fi film you've seen in a while? Was it totally disappointing to you? Are you looking forward to part 2? What's your opinion of Zack Snyder? And what did you get of Santa Claus for Christmas? That's what I want to know. So, like I say, I've recorded this on the 23rd of December on its release date. If it's not up on the channel prior, it'll be on after Christmas. So, once again, if you have or you're having a great, happy Christmas, then happy Christmas from me. Happy Christmas from the entertainment headquarters. And we'll see you again in the new year. Until then, keep enjoying all things entertainment. Merry Christmas.